How's it going, everybody? Welcome to FoundFlix. On this Indie Explain, we're looking at Daddy's Home. I mean Daddy's Head. I'm a little different. We follow a boy and his widowed stepmother as they find themselves in fear for their lives after they are visited by an unexplainable creature, which appears to mimic the boy's recently deceased father. Daddy's Head is the second movie from writer-director Benjamin Barfoot, and it is quite impressive considering its small scope, particularly when it comes to creating atmosphere as well as the acting. The visuals do a lot of heavy lifting and manage to make pedestrian things like dark hallways or the wind blowing through trees feel spooky. It's also compelling how the story unfolds. With each strange encounter, we're given more pieces to the story, feeling like a mystery. It feels like it's building to some big twist, but ultimately it's disappointingly straightforward. But that isn't enough to bring the movie down as a whole, and things like the creature's design are certainly memorable. And I also appreciate not having everything spelled out, as there are many questions we are left with at the conclusion. And surprisingly, there's a whole other thing going on that is barely even touched upon. So let's check out Daddy's Head, breaking down the story, including the important personal dynamics at play, just what the creature is all about, and explaining the ending that leaves us with many questions. There's an instant air of unease, seeing the reflection of a tree on a gloomy day. The lake flanks a massive house that is quite impressive as well. The inside makes it clear that the place has been long abandoned, with sheets covering all the furniture. The young man Isaac unlocks the door, taking in the space. He goes right to a corner, sitting at an AC grate in the wall, giving it an intense stare down. We then flash back to several years earlier to piece together the mystery of what happened here. He, along with his new stepmom, are at the hospital, hearing a monitor beeping. Laura looks emotionally drained, while the boy appears more dead-eyed. They slowly enter his dad's room and see he is completely covered in bandages, straight up mummy over here. While we don't know what happened to James just yet, it was obviously quite severe. In fact, it is time for the boy to tell him goodbye. There's nothing more that they can do. Laura starts bawling and leaves him to do so on his own. Isaac gets closer, seeing in more detail that his dad is quite messed up. A light suddenly starts dancing over his face. It gets more and more rapid, almost epileptic. As it speeds up, we see an eye poking through from under the bandages. The pair head home in silence and drive past a sign reading police accident, presumably where James crashed. Isaac looks back and Laura catches his gaze in the mirror, still upset. They arrive at the same house from the opening, but much more alive now. She asks if he wants something to eat. He politely tells her no and retreats to his bedroom. They later have an awkward dinner at a massive table, each on both ends respectively. She says he doesn't have to eat, and Isaac immediately puts down the fork. And it's already pretty obvious that these two don't have the closest relationship, and it's a struggle for both of them without James's presence. As for Laura, she deals with her grief via the fully stocked wine cellar. She pops a bottle and plops on the couch, watching old clips of the family together in happier times. Moments like when they first get their puppy Bella. Laura is filming Isaac later, and he gets uncomfortable asking her to stop. He later is gifted a video game system for doing well at school, and then is bestowed an art kit from Laura. She smiles as she hopes that he'd like it. Isaac is at least able to give her a weak thank you for the gesture. The time comes to discuss James's estate, and as his legal spouse, Laura gets everything. The house that he built, along with several other properties, and a life insurance payout. It was also James's wish to be buried alongside his first wife, Suzanne, out in a special garden area on the house's grounds. This might seem odd, but as we learn, he and Laura got married quite quickly, and he was unable to update his will before the accident. As for what to do with Isaac, it's a difficult situation. James and Suzanne were only children, meaning there is no one else in the family to take care of the boy. Thusly, they suggest that she take over his guardianship, especially now. The boy needs someone as well as a home. And if she decides not to, it will be up to the state to decide his fate, most likely ending up in a foster home. Laura discusses the Isaac situation with her mom, and she suggests to just take the money and run. She's always struggled, and this was supposed to be her chance for a new life. Yeesh, thanks for the vote of confidence, Mom. Still uncertain of what to do, Laura settles on helping herself to another bottle of vino. She's back to watching old videos and comes across a secret video of Isaac to his papa. He says that he knows he won't see him for a while, and so he wanted to record this to tell him he loves him and can't wait to see him soon. Meanwhile, in bed, the boy stirs, mumbling "daddy" to himself while asleep. In the living room, the TV clicks off. It's followed by an assault of erratic flashing blue lights, just like at the hospital. They wake Laura up, seeing a figure bathed leave them blue outside the window. Moments later, they disappear. She's roused awake the next morning by her and her late beau's friend Robert. He's curious about what she's gonna do about the boy as well, but she still doesn't know. She's worried that he hates her, and Robert corrects that he doesn't. She's adamant he does. They've barely spoken since she married his father. Robert has his own relationship tribulations, going through a divorce with his wife. She was devastated to hear about James, but for now, his kids don't know what happened. The divorce is enough for them to deal with for now. He inquires about how Isaac is doing, seeing him fiddling away on his video games. Robert attempts to talk to the boy, but he keeps his walls up, not interested in discussing anything. He attempts to relate. He can't imagine what he's going through, losing his mom and now his dad as well. They both meant a lot to him. They were like his family, and he says that Isaac is too, giving him a big hug. Whatever he needs, he's here. He encourages Laura to just let Isaac process what's going on, and he'll be back in a few days to check on them. On her own, Laura leans on the wall, appearing completely overwhelmed. It's then her turn to try and talk with Isaac, asking him to put the game away. She tells him sorry, and knows that it must be so difficult to lose both his parents. She mentions where his dad wants to be buried, next to his mother, and she intends to follow his wishes. Isaac doesn't understand what happened to his papa. She explains that the machine was keeping him alive, but he was essentially dead. The doctors told him that it should be switched off. Isaac freaks out. How do they know? He shrieks. Well, because they saw what happened to him. She gets teary-eyed, saying that she wished that this didn't happen. Certainly, they both wish that he was still here, but he's gone. Reaching her emotional limit, she leaves to go make a cup of tea. Then out in the hall, she breaks down completely, falling to the floor and stifles back her pain sobs. It's too much. So she's back to her regular coping mechanism, drinking herself into a stupor, weirdly drifting by in slow motion. The figure is then back at the window, which resembles James, but something is definitely off. She drops the wine glass, shattering to the floor, and passes out totally hammered. Those blue lights are back, dancing over a sleeping Isaac. They then move on to Laura, causing objects in the house to rattle. Her eyes flutter open, seeing her glass clinking. The whistling sound subsides, and the light vanishes into the dark. What is it, aliens or what the heck? What is with this light show? It's an especially misty morning at the house, and Bella is heard barking. Laura comes to on the floor, confused. Bella continues barking and gets more intense. Isaac heads outside to investigate, finding Laura already out there. They see a massive plume of smoke billowing from the woods, along with birds flocking and squawking around. Laura runs off, shouting for Isaac to come back inside. She makes a call to the fire brigade, and a crew combs through the forest. However, they let her down that the forest is too big for them to check entirely, but they saw no signs of a fire whatsoever. Laura returns to her unhealthy habits. She hears an odd noise nearby at the big table, but doesn't see anything strange, though there is definitely something weird in the house, later hearing cracking and scraping up on the roof, along with distinct chittering sounds. Laura is in another alcohol-induced slumber, and the blinking light display returns. She wakes up this time, the light show continuing to her befuddlement. She follows it outside, hearing garbled radio chatter. The lights continue blinking, luring her into the forest, now also including a red one. She then arrives at a very wrecked automobile, which must be related to James. Laura, a voice croaks, and she turns back to James with a skeletal face. They finally put James's body to rest in the garden nearby. Isaac is a million miles away, the priest's words muffled in his ears. They continue rambling about how he will return to be with you. A new body formed in the earth anew. At the wake after, everyone hugs and cries while Isaac stands off alone in the corner. Robert takes Laura's hands, comforting her, and Isaac does not appreciate the gesture. Rather than even attempt to spend time together, the pair stay completely isolated. Laura is presumably drunk and starts singing at the window. She then puts on a high-energy dance song. The beat kicks on quite loudly, poor Isaac having to suffer in bed. He ventures out to the living room, to her passed out on the ground. He shouts and she cannot hear him over the music. Bella then starts barking again, which rouses her from her drunken coma. She continues barking aggressively towards something. It seems to be coming from that same table from earlier. There is something there on the other side, obscured in the dark. The thing chitters and runs. Bella chases it down, hearing a skirmish in the other room. They find it trashed and the window shattered, Bella still barking away. They touch her fur and discover that whatever it was bit the pup. They don't even discuss what happened, just puts him to bed, promising they'll fix the window in the morning. Okay. Laura begins getting undressed and Isaac wanders in. He stammers that he's a bit scared, and she offers to let him sleep in bed with her. He agrees, and spotting a knife on the bed, she quickly stuffs it into a drawer. Later, while both are asleep, he instinctively snuggles up to her, and she takes him in her arms, their bond growing closer, at least a little bit. Stop drinking all the time and just help the kid. Out in the woods, there's a howling, accompanied with a warbling tone. There's a creaking sound, and a dark masked face emerges from the shadows, almost looking made of leather, but kind of not quite formed. formed. It speaks in a guttural growl, beckoning to Isaac. The pair wake up still snuggling. Realizing what's happened, they both uncomfortably pull away, and he leaves without a word. Well, so much for that. She talks about their encounter with Robert. They don't know what it was. She was just so scared. If only James had been here. This house is too much for her on her own. Because of this, he extends an offer to stay with him and the girls. She's insistent on not giving up just yet, and it allows him to at least cook up some grub. Back at the drawer, that knife she stowed in there has gone missing. She scours through Isaac's room in search of it, but comes up empty. She's back to staring off into space and drinking more wine, and then notices something else missing. There's an empty frame where a photo of James and his boy was displayed. Robert asks Isaac what he saw, and whatever it was bit Bella. All that he could make out is that it was skinny and dark. Isaac picks at his plate, and she encourages him to eat once more. Yet the boy is still uninterested, grumbling that he doesn't feel like it. Back to sleep, there's more scraping and creaking heard above. Isaac is unaware, deep in Sleepy Town. His eyes start to flutter open, looking to something at the door. There's a scratchy voice. Isaac, it growls. It keeps repeating his name, and the voice becomes more clear and human-like. It now resembles a regular human voice, and Isaac recognizes it as his dad's. He wants to know where he's been, and he responds to come out to the forest. His dog shows up, barking her head off, and the figure is gone. The boy becomes more curious about the forest, and now he's the one staring out the window. He stomps out and listens intently to the trees. Should he listen to his supposed father's wishes? He decides to go for it, getting closer to the edge of the woods. Laura happens to see him and looks mildly concerned. Not enough to do anything, and she calls her friend for support. Isaac looks into the mess of growth, seeing something distinctly in there. Isaac's emotions flow. He knew it wasn't a dream. You've come back! And a quite human-looking head peeks out from within. Daddy's head! At least Bella is on top of things and rushes out the door when let outside. She bolts right for the boy and barks loudly in warning. Laura shrieks to him, "What are you doing?" And the boy cries, "He's back! Dad's back!" His behavior is more than enough to warrant serious concern, and they get Mary back out here to give him an assessment. She asks how he's feeling, and only now is the boy hungry. Mary assures him that Laura can fix him something later, and he isn't so sure. He doesn't even trust her to make a sandwich. He spills that he saw his dad, and Mary comforts him that no, you're not crazy. She believes him. Why else would he even say it? He continues that he came to him in his room and spoke to him. He said that he was in the forest and then saw him clear as day hiding in the trees. Mary is curious what he said, and he told him that he's special, and then everyone must not know that he's here. Anything else? That this was an accident. He didn't mean to be here. Laura mentions the car accident, but Isaac thinks that that is not what they were referring to. Well, what does the boy think he meant then? He sighs that he doesn't know, but could tell that he looked different. His body was different. She knows he's quite the artist and tasks Isaac to sketch what he saw. He shows it off, and Mary is curious where he is now. Well, out in the woods waiting for him. Mary gives her conclusions to Laura, thinking that this is just his particular way of grieving. She finds it all quite strange and considers, can we just send him somewhere? Mary counters that being institutionalized is not what's best for him. He needs love, not a psych ward, which is apparently proving quite difficult for Laura. She pours over the boy's drawing with a glass of wine. Mary's advice rings in her ears. Don't shut him down. Let it out so that he can address his needs. She takes in the drawing, a dark, goblinified version of his dad. And, well, that's disturbing. She finds him staring out at the lake again and joins him. She puts Mary's words into action and decides to join him to scour the woods. Eventually, they happen upon a strange wooden formation, stopping them in their tracks. Bella starts barking, and Isaac chases after her. Bella is foaming right at the entrance of a weird-looking building. Laura shouts to get away from it. They don't know what's in there. But Isaac is certain this was built for him. His dad is in there. She grabs him by the arm, trying to pull him away. He loses it and socks her in the lip. He weakly calls out to the hole, and she more aggressively drags him off. Now, even more concerned, she reaches out to Robert for assistance and asks him to bring something mysterious along. He shows up after a while and finds her, where else, in another wine-induced snooze on the couch. He rattles her awake, and he's got some nice tea going. He notes her excessive drinking. They've got quite a wine cellar, eh? He gets it, but warns her to be careful. It seems that she did indeed have a drinking problem, scoffing that he sounds like her therapist, which is actually a compliment. She got her to stay out of rehab. Robert did hear about that from James. She's worried that he must have talked smack about her, but that was not the case at all. He was crazy about her. She wishes that Isaac would feel the same, and he encourages it will come. She's not so hopeful. This is all a disaster waiting to happen, she moans. And I'm really thinking at this point this lady should not be in charge of this child. She has some of her own shit to work out. Seriously. Robert feels for her and offers to take Isaac under his care. He has raised 2 kids already. He would raise him in honor of his dead pal. She gets teary-eyed and he takes her in an embrace. She's curious. Why did he and his wife get a divorce? Well, he had an affair, and that gets her to back away quite quick. He defends that you can be married and still be lonely. She's off to bed, and Robert stays behind to help clean up. It's a camera that she requested, setting it up to spy on Isaac's room. I'm sure that will help with their already shaky trust. She checks it out while he's sleeping, and then there's more of that scurrying and rustling. It was clearly heard by her, but she just climbs into bed, ignoring it, apparently. When Robert takes out the trash, Bella sneaks outside and runs off into the night. Her destination is that weird ornate wooden structure, and she barks aggressively at the dark hole. Something starts to slowly rise within. A few moments later, it pops out, appearing to be an exact double of the dog. Bella seems to calm down a bit, and the double creeps back. Bella is determined and runs inside for the attack, hearing quite a battle until one whimpers in defeat. They soon realize that she's missing, and Laura notices that the once missing knife has reappeared back in its place, and when checking the camera, Isaac's bed is empty. They find poor Bella all mauled up and already dead. Back at the house, the boy looks eerily over the scene. Is he responsible or aliens? Nah, just kidding. Yvette is baffled by the attack. The lacerations don't really match a typical animal bite. Remembering the knife, Laura proposes perhaps a knife was responsible for the attack? As for any other possible culprits, there is literally no one else around the area, just the people in the house. They decide to bury Bella in the special burial ground, but find the sacred area destroyed. All the plants have been torn out, rendering the place a mess, and disturbing James's grave. Laura is really upset about it, as she kind of has been this entire movie. Even after everything, they still keep their distance as she watches over Isaac playing his precious video game. Seriously, get this kid a bike or something. I still don't understand why they don't just interact, talk to him, get a burger or something, just get out of this damn house. Robert is busy preparing another meal, and Laura takes the chance to sneak some well-hidden alcohol into her OJ. She gulps down a healthy chug, still eyeballing the monitor. A metal scraping is heard at the vent, and we see the screws start being undone, one by one. Once they are all extracted, the door is kicked right off. Impressively in a way, Laura misses this entirely, just drinking even though there's a camera 2 feet in front of your face. It's what looks like Bella there in the ducts, and she shirks back. He peeks in, and there's something down there, which then appears as his dad. Okay, definitely got some kind of shapeshifter creature on her hands here, and it's mimicking them to manipulate Isaac. The dad warns to not trust his mother as well as Robert. They will lie. He's built him a home and invites him to come inside. Isaac shrieks, "I love you, come back please!" Only now does Laura finally check the screen. The dad continues, "The others will never accept what I am, but he does, which makes him special." Isaac pounds his fist, "Then make them accept you." Laura pans the camera to the hole and even catches a glimpse of the ghoulish face. She and Robert bust into the room, and the boy yowls that dad was here, and Bella too. Of course, now the vent is empty. Isaac's sobbing he saw them for sure. Now word from this week's sponsor, DraftKings Casino. The great rewards hunt is on, so join the adventure with DraftKings Casino. For fun seekers, follow the trail to huge jackpots, weekly bonuses, and exclusive games. But the excitement is only getting started, because new players can get 500 casino spins on a featured game. Just sign up with code ENDING and wager a minimum of $5 to receive 500 casino spins on a featured game. Only on the most rewarding place to play, DraftKings Casino. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. 21 plus. Physically present in Michigan, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, West Virginia only. Void in Connecticut and Ontario. Eligibility restrictions apply. New customers only. Non-withdrawable casino spins valid for featured game only and expire in 168 hours. See terms at casino.draftkings.com/promos. Ends April 27th, 2025 at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. It's time for another round of evaluations with Mary, and of course he is sounding nuttier than ever. But Laura also does chime in she did see a face too. Laura can't take it anymore. The dog's been stabbed to death, and Isaac's saying he saw her in the air vents. James's grave was destroyed. Laura shrieking she needs answers. What is going on here? You and me both, lady. Laura holds up in her room, and Robert gives her another big hug as she starts to bawl. She goes in for a passionate yet confused kiss, which of course Isaac happens to witness. He runs off before seeing them pulling away, and she's back to wailing. Emotions are pretty high guy here, to be fair. Sure, there may be some attraction between them, but this is more just how unhinged emotionally she is at the moment. Point is, the kid got the wrong idea. In his mind, this proves they were lying to him, sending him straight back to his doppel-daddy's arms. He shrieks that he was right about them being liars. The voice requests to bring Robert so he can show them. But importantly, he must come inside this house he built for him. We don't ever quite get exactly what the creature's plan is, but he definitely needs Isaac to actually enter into his abode for it to happen. Isaac so wants us to be his dad, sobbing, "I know you love me." The voice assures him he just wants him to see the truth, which only he will understand. Amongst the dark, we can just barely make out some kind of big weird mouth thing opening wide, the creature's normal shape when not taking someone else's form, I imagine. Robert is still there playing daddy at the house, while Isaac appears sullen over his cereal. They're joined by a quite hungover Laura, and he brings up that Isaac wanted to go on a walk in the woods. Great idea. He grumbles that he's done eating and slinks off. Laura has absolutely no recollection of what happened after Mary was here. Oh yeah, she was drunk as a skunk. Robert fibs that nothing happened. Mary left and she just went to sleep. No big deal. Laura has finally reached a conclusion that she can't take care of the kid and reminds him of his offer to take him. Robert is still happy to step up and she's relieved. They'll tell him on the walk later. She says she's sorry and that she really did try. Did you though? Regardless, she definitely has other personal issues that she needs to be dealing with. Robert and Isaac set off for their walk, getting deeper into the woods. Robert grows worried as they continue onwards. It's getting late. Isaac is unfazed, telling him it's this way. By nightfall, they reach the twisted structure, Robert gasping at the sight. He's baffled, and Isaac proudly states his dad built it. Well, when exactly? The kid isn't sure, but he does know it's for him. Rob trains his flashlight into the hole, wondering what's inside. The kid hasn't ever been in there. He's too scared. He suggests they both go in together. There's probably something incredible inside. Isaac refuses, and Robert joins him for a sit. This is obviously a perfect time to bring up Isaac moving in with him, and it's no shock that he is completely uninterested. He asks him, well, what do you want? I just want you to see him. He reminds him that his dad is dead, and Isaac insists otherwise. I hate you, he shouts. Robert tells him that he's here for him. His father would want him to help too. He decides it's time to go home and grabs his arm. Then something starts stirring inside, and there's a brief glimpse of something dark and strange. It twists to face him, an odd creature almost entirely black, but yeah, with daddy's head. Robert sprints off into the woods, shouting for Isaac to run. We don't see what happens, but Laura finds Robert all messed up. She tries to visit him at the hospital, but isn't allowed in. Next of kin only. Even more shaken up now, she arrives back home. She sits down and tries to get things straight once and for all with the boy. What happened to Robert? He lies that he slipped in his head. Well, the official story agrees that it looks like an accident, but she still doesn't believe him. He spits that she's a liar. Well, why? I saw you kissing him. Laura was so out of it she doesn't even remember this, and gives him a tearful apology. He confesses that he did destroy his dad's grave because he was mad. She continues down the laundry list of questions. What about the knife? But he has no idea about a knife. Then the two biggest questions. Did he kill the dog? Nope. Well, what about Robert? No. He was scared of dad. Laura has reached her absolute limit and can't stay in this house anymore. Good is all the boy offers in response. With that, she vows to leave tomorrow and will never come back. The place will be his, but he will be put in care, which is what she was trying to protect him from in the first place. But he needs help that she simply cannot provide. Sleepy time inevitably returns, and the wind begins to howl. Down in the critter's hideout, the wind really picks up. The creaking continues, and the light passes over Isaac's face. A long-fingered hand claws over the bed. It starts climbing its way right on top of the sleeping lad. Meanwhile, a human hand reaches out and touches Laura, startling her awake. This to me seems like a completely different entity here, something actually trying to warn her or help. Isaac's eyes shoot open, and the thing is still right there looming over him. Laura flings open the door, taking in the creature. She stumbles back and bonks her head, things going all wonky. The double climbs up the wall, staring down. Laura struggles to get her balance, her POV all out of whack. In the room, the wind really whistles, sending drawings fluttering all over the place. Still not quite thinking straight, Laura takes Isaac close. He pulls out the knife, liar, seeing the figure creeping closer. Isaac, it croaks. I am like you. Come with me, it suggests. We'll be a family. Laura gets it with a surprise knife attack, stabbing the absolute hell out of the thing. It manages to break free and scurries away. But now Laura knows for sure that Isaac isn't crazy. There really was some kind of twisted creature bothering him this whole time. Well, that certainly changes things. We then pick back up with older Isaac returning to the house, most likely for the first time since that encounter. He moves on to the burial garden area, now completely untended and overgrown. He stares off into the woods, walking towards them purposefully. He trots out to the weird building, now mostly collapsed, though the entrance remains. Isaac decides it is time to face his fears and enters the abode. He comes to another chamber covered in vines. Amongst the forest floor, he discovers a photo of him and his father, the same one that was stolen years ago from the house. He takes a step back, hearing a crunch. It's a skeleton, and based on its odd composition, must belong to the creature. Even if it did escape years ago, it must have bled out back in its house. Isaac returns to his new stately home. He comes to Laura sleeping in bed. "Mom," he calls for her. She perks up, asking if everything's okay. Well, there's a lot to discuss regarding how things turn out. The most important aspect of the story is the evolution of Laura and Isaac's relationship. As we saw throughout, it's really about their struggle to connect in any way in the wake of James's death. They weren't really close beforehand and were thrown into this difficult situation. And when it seemed like there really was no hope, from what we can glean, that climactic showdown with the critter was a huge turning point for the both of them. We pretty much skip over all that development, but the end tells us everything. The fact that the pair are even still together years later, that means that Laura was able to overcome her personal issues and be what Isaac needed. Then for Isaac, the fact that he calls her mom rather than Laura speaks volumes. This means that they have built a real relationship in the intervening years, and now really are a family, which has also allowed him to finally move on from his father's death. Now he isn't scared to enter the wood house anymore, finally able to face his fears. This is what allowed him to find out that their problem has been dealt with for good. But then there's the creature aspect and what it's after. We don't really ever understand what the big plan is here beyond getting the boy into the house. There aren't really many details beyond the fact that its face can take on other creatures' forms, and based on what we do know, it seems the creature just kind of randomly found itself here. It even told Isaac that it was here by accident, so it just kind of randomly stumbled onto the house and then selected Isaac as its target. I still don't know what he wanted with the boy exactly, but I consider that maybe by him entering the wooden house, he would be trapped with the creature forever. The whole "we can be a family" thing and what have you. And its whole thing was trying to get the kid into its house. It took on James and Bella's form specifically to trick him to go inside. If it just wanted to eat him, there were plenty of opportunities to do so. That's why, at least to me, I don't think this was just about getting a meal. In the scheme of things, there are some elements that don't really seem to jive with the creature, which leads me to think that there was another presence here. The only thing that makes any sense is that it's the spirit of James himself. Those lights earlier seem to represent the flashing police lights from the accident, and she is shown the wrecked car. Then she also sees James himself. There's also moments at the window where he's seen. The key difference here is that this figure looks like a human. The creature only ever changes its face and not the rest of the body. That means to me that this must actually be James showing himself to Laura. What really confirms it to me is the arm that wakes her up at the end. First of all, it's human, and then it would make no sense for the creature to alert her. It must be James giving her a final push to save the day. That'll do it for this Ending Explained for Daddy's Head. But don't forget, you can send me requests for anything you'd like to see me cover by sending them my way on any of my social media accounts. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow. Thanks for watching FoundFlix. See you next time.